Hello everybody! Today I would like to tell you about amazing CoffeeScript. History. On December 13, 2009, Jeremy Ashkenaz made the first Git commit of CoffeeScript with the command initial commit of the mystery language. On December 24, he made the first tagged and documented release, 0.1.0. On December 24, 2010, Ashkenaz announced the release of stable 1.0.0 to Hacker News, the site where the project was announced for the first time. On September 18, 2017, versions 2.0.0 was introduced, which aims to bring CoffeeScript into the modern JavaScript era, closing gaps in compatibility with JavaScript while preserving the clean syntax that is CoffeeScript's hallmark. What is CoffeeScript? CoffeeScript is an attempt to expose the good parts of JavaScript in a simple way. The golden rule of CoffeeScript is just JavaScript. The compiled output is readable, pretty-printed, and tends to run as fast or faster than the equivalent handwritten JavaScript. Current version is 2.3.2. The biggest change in CoffeeScript 2 is that now the CoffeeScript compiler produces modern JavaScript syntax, ES6 and later. A CoffeeScript fat arrow becomes a JavaScript fat arrow, a CoffeeScript class becomes a JS class, and so on. Major new features in CoffeeScript 2 include async functions and G6. To install CoffeeScript, you should use npm install command. You can install it locally or globally. Transpilation. CoffeeScript 2 generates JavaScript that uses the latest modern syntax. The runtime or browsers where you want your code to run might not support all of that syntax. In that case, you want to convert modern JavaScript into older JavaScript that will run in older versions of Node or older browsers. This is done via transpilers like Babel. To make things easy, CoffeeScript has built-in support for the popular Babel transpiler. You can use it via the transpile command line option or the transpile not API option. To use either, Babel core must be installed in your project. By default, Babel doesn't do anything. You need to provide it with a configuration so that it knows what to do. One way to do this is by creating a babelrc file in the folder containing the files you're compiling, or in any parent folder up the path above those files. A minimal babelrc file would be just like this. This implies that you have installed Babel ProZ environment. Once you have Babel core and Babel ProZ environments or other ProZ or plugins installed and a babelrc file or other equivalents in place, you can use CoffeeTranspile command to pipe CoffeeScript's output through Babel using the options you've saved. Language references. First that we need to know is that CoffeeScript uses significant whitespace to delimit blocks of code. You don't need to use semicolons to terminate expressions, ending the line will do just as well. Also, semicolons can still be used to fit multiple expressions onto a single line. Instead of using curly braces to surround blocks of code in functions, if statements, switch, and try-catch, use indentation. You don't need to use parentheses to invoke a function if you're passing arguments. The implicit call wraps forward to the end of the line or block expression. Functions. Functions are defined by an optional list of parameters, in parentheses, an arrow and the function body. The empty function looks like thin arrow. Functions may also have default values for arguments which will be used if the incoming argument is missing, undefined. As you can see, there is no return statement in CoffeeScript examples, but it's not mandatory to use the return keyword in CoffeeScript. Every function in CoffeeScript returns the last statement in the function automatically. Strings. Like JavaScript and many other languages, CoffeeScript supports strings as delimited by the double quote or single quote characters. CoffeeScript also supports string interpolation within double quoted strings using hash and curly braces. Single quoted strings are literal. You may even use interpolation in object case. Multi-line strings are allowed in CoffeeScript. Lines are joined by a single space unless they end with a backslash. Indentation is ignored. Block strings delimited by triple double quote or triple single quote can be used to hold formatted or indentation-sensitive text. Double-quoted block strings, like other double-quoted strings, allow interpolation. Objects and arrays. The CoffeeScript literals for objects and arrays look very similar to their JavaScript cousins. When each property is listed on its own line, the commas are optional. Objects may be created using indentation instead of explicit braces. Comments. In CoffeeScript, comments are denoted by the hash character to the end of a line, or from triple hash to the next appearance of triple hash. Comments are ignored by the compiler, though the compiler makes its best effort at reinserting your comments into the output JavaScript after compilation. Lexical scoping and variable safety. The CoffeeScript compiler takes care to make sure that all of your variables are properly declared within lexical scope. You never need to write var keyword yourself. All of the variable declarations have been pushed up to the top of the closest scope the first time they appear. In this example, outer is not redeclared within the inner function, because it's already in scope. Inner within the function, on the other hand, should not be able to change the value of the external variable of the same name, and therefore has a declaration of its own. It's important that all CoffeeScript output, except in files with import or export statements, is wrapped in an anonymous function. This safety wrapper, combined with the automatic generation of the var keyword, make it exceedingly difficult to pollute the global namespace by accident. The safety wrapper can be disabled with the bare option and is unnecessary and automatically disabled when using models. If you'd like to create top-level variables for other scripts to use, attach them as properties on window or use an export statement. Also, it's not possible to declare variables with ES 2015 sled or const. If, else, unless, and conditional assignment. If-else statements can be written without the use of parentheses and curly brackets. As functions and other block expressions, multi-line conditionals are delimited by indentation. There's also a handy postfix form with the if or unless at the end. CoffeeScript can compile if statements into JavaScript expressions using the ternary operator when possible, and closure wrapping otherwise. There is no explicit ternary statement in CoffeeScript. You simply use a regular if statement on a single line. Splats or REST parameters or spread syntax. The JavaScript arguments object is a useful way to work with functions that accept variable numbers of arguments. CoffeeScript provides splats, both for function definition as well as invocation, making variable numbers of arguments a little bit more palatable. ES 2015 adopted these features as their REST parameters. Splats also let us elide array elements and object properties. In ECMAScript, this is called spread syntax and has been supported for arrays since ES 2015 and object since ES 2018. Loops and comprehensions. While loop and its variants are the only loop constructs in CoffeeScript. There is no need of the parentheses to specify the Boolean expression, and we have to indent the body of the loop using consistent number of white spaces instead of wrapping it with curly braces. The main difference from JavaScript is that the while loop can be used as an expression, returning an array containing the result of each iteration through the loop. Also, for readability, the until keyword is equivalent to while false, and the while keyword is equivalent to while true. Instead of the commonly used for loop, CoffeeScript provides comprehensions. Comprehensions is additional loop structure. Using comprehensions, we can iterate arrays as well as objects. Comprehensions replace and compile into for loops with optional guard clauses and the value of the current array index. Unlike for loops, array comprehensions are expressions and can be returned and assigned. There are two types of comprehensions. For-in comprehensions. The for-in comprehension is the basic form of comprehensions in CoffeeScript. Using this, we can iterate the elements of a list or array. For-of comprehensions, CoffeeScript provides a container to store key-value pairs known as objects. We can iterate objects using the for-of comprehensions provided by CoffeeScript. ES6 also have for-of loops. The difference is that ES6 for-of statement creates a loop iterating over iterable objects, including built-in strings, array, array-like objects, typed array, map, set, and user-defined iterables. The list or array of elements have an index which can be used in comprehensions. You can use it in comprehensions using a variable as shown below. CoffeeScript provides ranges to define a list of elements. For example, the range 1 to 10 is equivalent to array starts from 1 to 10, where every element is incremented by 1. We can also change this increment using the by keyword of comprehensions. For example, array slicing and splicing with ranges. Ranges can also be used to extract slices of arrays. With 2 dots, the range is inclusive first and last elements. With 3 dots, the range excludes the ends of array. Slices indices have useful defaults. An omitted first index defaults to 0 and an omitted second index default to the size of the array. The same syntax can be used with assignment to replace a segment of an array with new values, splicing it. Operators and aliases. Here you can see how CoffeeScript compiles operators. Instead of a new line or semicolon, then can be used to separate conditions from expressions in while, if else, and switch when statements. On and yes are the same as boolean true, while off and no are boolean false. Unless can be used as the inverse of if. As a shortcut for this point property, you can use at property. In a for loop, from compiles to the ES 2015 of. Destruction assignment. Just like JavaScript since ES 2015, CoffeeScript has destruction assignment syntax. When you assign an array or object literal to a value, CoffeeScript breaks up and matches both sides against each other, assigning the values on the right to the variables on the left. In the simplest case, it can be used for parallel assignment. But it's also helpful for dealing with functions that return multiple values. Bound fat arrow functions. In JavaScript, the this keyword is dynamically scoped to mean the object that the current function is attached to. If you pass a function as a callback or attach it to a different object, the original value of this will be lost. In CoffeeScript, the fat arrow can be used to both define a function and to bind it to the current value of this, right on the spot. Functions created with the fat arrow are able to access properties of this where they defined. The fat arrow was one of the most popular features of CoffeeScript, and ES 2015 adopted. So, CoffeeScript 2 compiles fat arrow to ES 2015 fat arrow. Classes. CoffeeScript 1 provides the class and extends keywords as syntactic sugar for working with prototypal functions. With ES 2015, JavaScript has adopted those keywords, so CoffeeScript 2 compiles the class and extends keywords to ES 2015 classes. Also, static methods can be defined using at before the method name. Prototypal inheritance. In addition to supporting ES 2015 classes, CoffeeScript provides a shortcut for working with prototypes. The double colons operator gives you quick access to an object's prototype. Switch when else. In switch case construction, CoffeeScript prevents accidental fall-through and can convert the switch into a returnable assignable expression. The format is switch condition when clauses else the default case. Switch statements in CoffeeScript can take multiple values for each when clause. If any of the values match, the clause runs. Switch statements can also be used without a control expression, turning them into a cleaner alternative to if-else chains. Try, catch, finally. Try expressions have the same semantics as try statements in JavaScript, though in CoffeeScript you may omit both the catch and finally parts. The catch part may also omit the error parameter if it's not needed. Modules. ES 2015 modules are supported in CoffeeScript with very similar import and export syntax. Note that the CoffeeScript compiler does not resolve modules. Writing an import or export statement in CoffeeScript will produce an import or export statement in the resulting output. It's your responsibility to transpile this ES 2015 syntax into code that will work in your target runtimes. Thank you for your attention.